I was 16 when a classmate decided to ruin my life with one sentence. She's pregnant. At first, I laughed it off, thinking no one would believe something so ridiculous. But in high school, rumors move faster than the truth. Teachers gave me looks, friends pulled away, and even my parents asked questions I didn't know how to answer. I felt like my entire reputation had been set on fire. What I didn't realize was that the rumor wouldn't just backfire. It would end up getting her expelled. High school at 16 is brutal enough without someone trying to destroy you. Back then, I wasn't the kind of person who drew a lot of attention. I had a small circle of friends, kept my head down, and tried to get through classes without making waves. My parents always said I was the quiet one of the family, the one they didn't have to worry about. I guess that made it even more shocking when a rumor started spreading about me. Something so outrageous, so out of character, that half the school seemed to believe it instantly. It started on a Tuesday morning, in the middle of math class. I remember walking in and feeling the room go quiet in a way that didn't feel normal. You know when people have been talking about you and suddenly stop? That heavy silence that makes your skin crawl. That's what I walked into. I thought maybe I had something on my face, or that my shirt was inside out. But then one of the girls from the back whispered just loud enough. That's her. She's the one who's pregnant. I froze. Pregnant? At 16? My brain was scrambling, trying to process if I'd heard her right. I laughed nervously, hoping someone would say it was a joke. No one did. By lunch, it felt like every single hallway had eyes on me. A couple of guys smirked as I passed. Girls looked at me with pity, and one teacher gave me that awkward, concerned smile that only made it worse. It was like my identity had been replaced overnight. I wasn't just me anymore. I was the pregnant girl. The worst part wasn't the students. It was how quickly adults seemed to jump on it. My English teacher asked if everything was okay at home. The school nurse cornered me to ask if I needed any resources. Even my mom pulled me aside that evening, her voice soft but loaded. "Sweetheart, is there something you want to tell us?" I remember the sheer panic rising in my chest. My parents trusted me, but now they were looking at me like they weren't so sure. And the whole time, I knew exactly who had started it. She wasn't my best friend, not even close, but we were in the same classes, ate at the same lunch table sometimes, and knew each other well enough. She had always been jealous in small, petty ways, snide comments about my grades, my clothes, even my relationship with teachers. I didn't think she was capable of something this destructive. But apparently, she was. What stung the most was that the rumor spread so easily. It didn't matter that I had never had a boyfriend, that I barely went out on weekends, that there was nothing in my life that even hinted at such a thing. In the cruel ecosystem of high school, the truth didn't stand a chance against something juicy, something scandalous. At first, I told myself it would blow over. Rumors come and go, right? But this one stuck. Each day felt heavier, each whisper sharper. My friends started pulling away, unsure of what to believe. I felt cornered, humiliated, and helpless. I wanted to scream at everyone that it wasn't true, but I also knew that denials often just feed gossip. What I didn't know then was that the school was paying attention too. And the girl who thought she could destroy me? She had no idea the fallout was coming. I thought the rumor would stay in the hallways, whispered behind hands, until people got bored and moved on. But high school doesn't work like that. Once a story starts rolling, it snowballs, especially when it's scandalous. And for a 16-year-old girl in a small town, being the one who got pregnant was about as scandalous as it got. The real explosion happened 3 days later in biology. Ironically, we were covering human reproduction. The timing couldn't have been worse. As soon as the teacher started talking about fertilization, someone in the back coughed out my name. The whole class erupted into snickers and fake coughs, and the teacher snapped at everyone to quiet down. But the damage was done. I felt every eye drilling into me. My ears burned. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't even take notes. After class, I tried to slip out unnoticed, but she was waiting. The girl who started it all. She leaned against the lockers with this smug little smile, the kind that said she knew she owned the room now. "Hey, congratulations," she said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Boy or girl?" Laughter followed her like an entourage. I wanted to sink into the floor. That night, I broke down in my room. My mom came in again, and this time she wasn't just asking gently. She was pressing. "Honey, you can talk to us. We won't be mad. But if you're in trouble, we need to know." My dad stood in the doorway, his arms crossed, silent but watching. I kept insisting, "It's not true. I'm not pregnant." But even as I said it, I could see the doubt in their eyes. That was the part that shattered me most. It wasn't just kids laughing. It was my own parents questioning me. By the end of the week, it wasn't just my family and classmates. The school administration had pulled me aside. The counselor wanted to check in. The nurse asked if I needed prenatal vitamins. It was surreal. I kept thinking, how can a lie get this far? I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or scream. Meanwhile, the girl who started it seemed to be thriving. She had this sudden glow of popularity, people gathering around her at lunch to hear the latest version of the story. She added little details each time, supposed names of guys, fake sightings of me at clinics. She was crafting an entire narrative, and people ate it up. I started dreading school. Walking through the hallways felt like walking through a minefield. Every whisper felt like it was about me. Every laugh made me paranoid. Even teachers treated me differently, like they were handling me with kid gloves. And the worst part was the isolation. Friends who had been close suddenly didn't sit with me anymore. Some avoided eye contact altogether. It was like I'd been marked, tainted by something I didn't even do. One afternoon, I overheard two girls talking in the bathroom. They didn't know I was in the stall. "She deserves it," one of them said. "She acts all perfect. This will knock her down a peg." My stomach dropped. That's when I realized this wasn't just about gossip. This was envy, resentment. People wanted me to fall, and she had given them the perfect excuse. I walked out of the bathroom that day trembling, but with one clear thought. This isn't just going to disappear. I need to do something. But at 16, what could I really do? That was just the beginning. The first time I got solid proof, it didn't even feel like a victory. It felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Up until then, everything was whispers and side glances. I knew she was behind it, but I didn't have anything concrete. If I'd gone to a teacher or the principal, it would have been my word against hers, and she was good at playing innocent. She had this whole sweet girl act perfected, smiling in front of adults, volunteering in class, saying, "Yes, ma'am," and "Thank you." People liked her. Me? I was the quiet one. The good student. Sure, but not the type to make waves. If I accused her without proof, I'd come out looking bitter or paranoid. Then came Friday night. Someone sent me a screenshot. It was from Snapchat, a group story she had posted that afternoon. In the picture, there was a cartoon of a baby bottle and crying emoji. Her caption read, "Guess who's eating for two? Eyes." Underneath, one of the girls in her circle had commented, "You're so bad, face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy." And then she dropped my name. Clear as day. My hands were shaking as I stared at my phone. There it was. The proof I needed. She wasn't just whispering in hallways. She was broadcasting it, making it a joke for everyone online to see. The post had already disappeared by the time I checked her profile directly, but the screenshot was undeniable. I showed it to my best friend, the only person who hadn't completely pulled away from me during all this. She looked furious. "You can't let her get away with this," she said. "This is harassment." I wanted to believe her, but part of me was still scared. What if going to the administration just made things worse? What if they didn't care? High schools are notorious for brushing things off with, "Oh, it's just kids being kids." But then Monday morning came, and the rumor got louder. Someone slipped a fake pregnancy test into my locker. I don't know if it was her directly or one of her followers, but I knew whose idea it was. The sight of that little stick with two red lines drawn on with marker made my chest tighten so hard I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just gossip anymore. It was bullying. Targeted. That's when I pulled out my phone and saved every screenshot I had. Not just the one from Friday, but others my friend had sent me, comments in group chats, snaps with baby emojis, little digs that all pointed back to her. One by one, I put them in a folder labeled Proof. Every click felt like adding a brick to a wall I could finally stand behind. I didn't go straight to the principal. First, I showed my parents. I needed them on my side. My mom scrolled through the screenshots with this mixture of shock and anger. My dad's face went red. "She thinks she can get away with this?" he muttered. For the first time in weeks, I saw the doubt in their eyes shift. They actually believed me. That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept staring at my phone, replaying the posts in my mind. Part of me wanted to march into school the next day and confront her in front of everyone. Another part of me was terrified. What if standing up only made me more of a target? But deep down, I knew something had changed. I wasn't just the pregnant girl anymore. I was the girl with evidence. And I had no idea yet how far that evidence would take me. Walking into school the next morning, I felt different. Not confident, exactly, but steadier. I had the screenshots saved, backed up in 2 places, and even printed on paper in case anyone tried to claim they were fake. For the first time since this nightmare began, I had something solid, something no one could twist or dismiss as paranoia. Still, my stomach was in knots. I kept asking myself, what if the principal doesn't take it seriously? What if she just gets a slap on the wrist? What if it backfires and makes me look like a tattletale? The doubt ate at me with every step toward the office. The secretary barely looked up when I walked in. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked, shuffling papers. My voice shook as I said, "I need to talk to the principal. It's important." She sighed, picked up the phone, and a few minutes later I was ushered into his office. Principal Carter was one of those men who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Tired eyes, half-empty coffee mug, stacks of paperwork. When I sat down across from him, he leaned back and said, "So, what's going on?" I pulled out my phone, my hands trembling, and opened the folder. One by one, I slid it across his desk, the Snapchat post, the comments, the screenshots of her mocking me with baby emojis. I explained everything, from the whispers in the hallway to the fake pregnancy test in my locker. At first, his expression was flat, like he was waiting for me to finish some overblown teenage drama. But as he scrolled through the posts, something shifted. His brow furrowed. He leaned forward. Finally, he set the phone down and said, "This is serious." My chest tightened with relief. Someone finally believed me. He asked me to print out copies and email everything to the school's official account. Then he said something I didn't expect. "We'll need to bring her in for questioning." My stomach dropped. I hadn't thought that far ahead. The idea of sitting in the same room while she lied through her teeth made me nauseous. Sure enough, an hour later, I was called back to the office. This time, she was there, sitting across from me, her arms crossed, her face pulled into an expression of fake innocence. "I don't know why she's blaming me," she said immediately. "I never posted anything like that." I wanted to scream. Instead, I stayed quiet while Principal Carter turned the computer monitor toward her. The screenshots lit up the screen one by one. Her face went pale, but she tried to recover. "That's Photoshop," she said quickly. "Anyone could make those." But then came the kicker. My friend, bless her, had recorded a screen capture of the original story before it disappeared. Not just a screenshot, a full video showing her username, her profile picture, and her swiping through her own posts. There was no way to fake that. When Carter played the video, the room went silent. She stammered, That's not me. Someone hacked me." He didn't look convinced. "We'll be contacting your parents," he said firmly. "And we'll need to review your account with the IT department." For the first time, I saw her mask crack. Her eyes darted to me, full of pure venom. If looks could kill, I'd have been dead right there in that office. But under that glare, I felt something shift inside me. A flicker of power. She wasn't untouchable anymore. I left the office shaking, not from fear, but from adrenaline. My whole body buzzed, like I'd just run a marathon. For weeks, I'd been carrying the weight of humiliation, convinced no one would ever see the truth. And now, it was out in the open. Someone had finally called her out. Still, it wasn't over. Rumors don't vanish overnight, and people don't suddenly change their minds because of an office meeting. Walking through the halls that afternoon, I still heard whispers. But this time, I held my head a little higher. Because I knew the tide was turning. That night, when my mom asked how it went, I told her everything. She hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. My dad muttered something about kids these days, but I could tell he was proud I'd stood up for myself. For the first time in weeks, I ate dinner without that sick knot in my stomach. But as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the image of her face when she realized she'd been caught. The rage in her eyes. I knew she wasn't done yet. She wasn't the type to back down quietly. And I was right. For a brief moment, I thought it was over. The principal had proof, my parents were on my side, and she had been caught red-handed. But I underestimated her. I underestimated just how far someone would go to protect their image, even after being exposed. The following weeks started quietly enough. She kept her head down in class, no smug smiles, no sarcastic comments. Some kids even whispered that she was probably grounded for life. I wanted to believe it was done. That maybe, finally, I could breathe again. Then I overheard something that made my blood run cold. I was at my locker when 2 girls from her friend group walked by. They were whispering, but I caught enough. She says her cousin's gonna back her up, claim it was all a misunderstanding. The other one giggled. Yeah, like, maybe my name? Actually told her she was pregnant as a secret, and now she's lying. I froze. She was trying to flip it. Not only was she denying responsibility, she was about to rewrite the story so that I looked like the liar. That same afternoon, I found out just how deep it went. A friend slipped me screenshots from another group chat, this time private messages, not public posts. There she was, typing furiously. If they ask, just say she told me first. That's why I said it. I thought it was true. I'm not the bad guy here. My stomach churned. She wasn't just fighting to save face, she was orchestrating a cover-up. She was trying to drag other people down with her, to make them her alibis. It wasn't enough to deny it. She wanted to rewrite history so that I looked like the manipulator. I felt that same wave of humiliation crash back over me, stronger than ever. It was like standing on the edge of freedom only to be shoved right back into the cage. But underneath the humiliation was something else, anger. White-hot anger. That evening, I gathered every screenshot, every video, every shred of proof I could. I had the original posts, the comments, the screen recordings, and now these new messages that showed she was conspiring to lie. I printed them, highlighted them, and put them in a folder so thick it could have been a term paper. When I showed my parents, my mom's face turned hard. This isn't just gossip anymore, she said. This is harassment. It's defamation. My dad didn't say much, but the way he slammed the folder shut told me everything. The next morning, I marched back into Principal Carter's office, this time with my parents at my side. I laid the folder on his desk and said, "She's still doing it. She's trying to frame me now." He flipped through the pages, his expression growing darker by the second. Finally, he looked up and said, "This is much worse than I thought." In that moment, I saw the shift. It wasn't just a student causing trouble anymore. It was a student actively targeting another, trying to manipulate the system, dragging others into lies. This wasn't going to end with a slap on the wrist. As I left the office that day, I could feel eyes on me again in the hallway. But this time, they weren't laughing. They were curious, nervous, like the balance of power was starting to tilt. And deep down, I knew things were about to escalate in a way none of us could have predicted. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind spinning. On one hand, I wanted to let the school handle it. They had the proof now, the folder with everything neatly documented. If justice existed in that building, she'd finally face the consequences. But another part of me, the louder, angrier part, kept whispering, what if they go easy on her? What if she twists it again? What if she walks away laughing while I'm still the pregnant girl? I pictured myself storming into the cafeteria, standing on a table, and reading every single message aloud. I imagined projecting the screenshots onto the gym wall during assembly, letting everyone see exactly what she'd done. The thought sent a rush of satisfaction through me. For once, she wouldn't be the one controlling the narrative. But then reality crept in. If I did that, I'd be no better than her, feeding the same gossip machine I hated. And what if it backfired? Teenagers are ruthless. Some might find it funny, or worse, turn it into another way to mock me. The truth was, I was exhausted. Weeks of whispers, stares, and doubt had left me hollow. Part of me just wanted it to be over, no matter how. I kept weighing it, revenge or restraint, exposure or dignity. At dinner, my mom must have noticed how quiet I was. She put her hand on mine and said softly, "I know you want to fight back, but sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let the truth speak for itself." Her words stuck with me, even as my dad muttered about kids these days needing real consequences. I realized they were both right. I didn't want revenge. I wanted her to feel even a fraction of the humiliation she'd thrown at me. But more than that, I wanted my name cleared. I wanted to walk through those hallways without feeling like I was branded. By the time I went to bed, I had made my choice. I wasn't going to blast her in public, tempting as it was. I was going to let the system work. But deep inside, a voice whispered, "If they fail me, I'll take matters into my own hands." And I meant it. The Monday after I handed over the thick folder felt like the calm before a storm, but the calm was different now. Charged, like static in the air. Principal Carter called an assembly for an important announcement that afternoon. My stomach dropped. I didn't know if that meant they were finally going to clear my name, or if they were going to sweep it under the rug and tell everyone to move on. Either way, I felt every eye on me as I walked into the gym. Carter's voice echoed through the loudspeakers. He talked about respect, about online behavior, about consequences. Then he said something that made my knees go weak. The school had launched a formal investigation into the harassment and cyberbullying targeting a student. They weren't naming names, but the implication was clear. He asked anyone with relevant information to come forward to the office. My hands were numb when the assembly ended. Within 24 hours, things moved faster than I expected. IT had pulled data, and the screen capture video my friend provided was time-stamped and traceable. The assistant principal called both sets of parents in. I sat there while my mom gripped my hand so tight it hurt. Across the table, the other girl's mother was calm, too calm. She smiled at me in that way adults do when they think they can control a problem with a look. My daughter would never do something like that, she said. Her voice was sweet, but I heard steel under it. Then came the first blow I hadn't anticipated. A parent, one of hers, not mine, approached my dad that afternoon in the parking lot. You know, there are two sides to every story, she whispered. Maybe your daughter's been making her life difficult. Maybe she was trying to stop something. My dad's jaw clenched, his face hard. Even with proof, there were people who'd rather believe the version that painted me as dramatic. It hurt more than I expected. Still, the school kept going. They suspended her pending the disciplinary hearing. It felt like vindication, but it also opened a floodgate. Her friend group didn't go quietly. Overnight, rumors pivoted. They started whispering that I had fabricated screenshots, that I was trying to get her suspended out of jealousy. Someone smeared my locker with a note, "Drama Queen." The irony made me want to laugh and cry at the same time. The assistant principal scheduled interviews with several kids in her circle. Some stuck close to their story, denial, confusion. I didn't mean any harm, but one junior finally broke. He admitted he'd shared the Snapchat post in a private chat and even typed out the mocking comments. He showed his messages, time-stamped, direct, and when asked where he got it, he pointed to her. The chain was visible now, like dominoes lined up. That night, the school called a formal hearing. It would include administrators, IT staff, counselors, and both families. They warned it might lead to disciplinary actions up to expulsion. Hearing the word expulsion made my throat close. I tried to be grateful. This was the kind of official consequence I wanted, but a new fear crawled in. The hearing would mean more exposure, more public discussion about private things I never wanted in the open. On the ride home, my mom kept replaying the day. "You did the right thing," she said, but even she sounded exhausted. My phone buzzed with messages, some supportive, some cruel. One anonymous text read, "Enjoy your attention while it lasts." The cowardice of hiding behind anonymity made my blood boil. As I lay awake that night, I realized the cost of justice might be higher than I imagined. If the school found her guilty and expelled her, would the gossip stop, or would it mutate into something uglier? If they didn't, would I be the one left to live with the aftermath? Either way, the hearing was 2 days away, and she was not done fighting. For a brief, fleeting moment, I thought it was over. The day after the suspension, the hallways felt lighter. No whispers, no laughter trailing behind me. Even her group seemed quieter, scattered like a pack without its leader. I walked to class without my chest tightening, without the constant paranoia that someone was about to snicker in my ear. For the first time in weeks, I sat down in the cafeteria and actually ate lunch without feeling like the whole room was staring at me. It almost felt normal again. Teachers were kinder. Friends who had drifted away started inching back, testing the waters. One even apologized, mumbling, "I didn't know what to believe. I'm sorry." Hearing that nearly broke me. I didn't realize how badly I needed someone, anyone, to say out loud that they'd been wrong. That night, my mom smiled at dinner and said, "See? The truth always comes out in the end." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to let myself relax, to believe the nightmare was finally closing. But a part of me couldn't. I caught myself checking my phone every hour, waiting for another message, another screenshot, another cruel joke. My nerves were raw, like my body refused to trust the calm. And maybe for good reason. Because the very next morning, the calm shattered. As soon as I stepped into school, I noticed the stares again, different this time, sharper. Someone shoved a folded paper into my hand before darting away. My heart sank as I opened it. In messy handwriting, it read, "Careful what you wish for. Snitches get stitches." I stood frozen in the hallway, the noise of the crowd buzzing in my ears. For one day, I had tasted what it felt like to breathe freely again. And just like that, the reminder slammed into me. This wasn't finished. Not even close. The calm hadn't been resolution. It was the eye of the storm. The disciplinary hearing was supposed to settle everything. At least, that's what I told myself as I walked into the library conference room with my parents. A long table stretched across the room, stacked with papers, laptops, and bottles of water. On one side sat Principal Carter, the assistant principal, and the school counselor. On the other side, my parents and I. And across from us, her. The girl who had started it all. She didn't look smug this time. She looked rehearsed. Her hair was perfectly done, her clothes carefully chosen to look innocent. Beside her sat her parents, both dressed like they were heading to church, their faces set in stone. The hearing began with Carter reviewing the evidence. He displayed the screenshots, the video capture, and the chat logs I'd gathered. As the images flickered across the screen, my heart pounded so hard I thought everyone could hear it. This was my life laid bare, my humiliation replayed in crisp digital detail. Then it was her turn. She leaned forward, her voice trembling just enough to sound believable. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she said. "I thought it was just a silly joke. And honestly, I only repeated what I heard." Her eyes flicked toward me, told someone she might be pregnant. I didn't invent this. My mouth fell open. I could feel heat rising in my face. She wasn't just denying it. She was accusing me of starting the rumor myself. Her mom nodded along, chiming in. Teenagers say things in private. It's cruel to scapegoat my daughter for something everyone else was already gossiping about. For a moment, I thought the administrators were buying it. The counselor scribbled notes. The assistant principal frowned. My chest tightened. Was I about to lose everything, even after coming this far? Then Carter spoke. "That's interesting," he said slowly, "because we pulled metadata from the post." He turned the screen toward her, highlighting the username, the timestamp, the IP address. "This originated from your account. Not a friend's. Not hers. Yours." The silence that followed was thick. Her mom shifted uncomfortably. Her dad cleared his throat. But she doubled down. "That doesn't prove anything. Someone could have hacked me." That's when my friend, who had bravely agreed to testify, spoke up. She described how she'd recorded the story live, how she'd seen the post with her own eyes before it disappeared. Her voice shook, but her words were clear. It was the final nail. Still, instead of backing down, the girl snapped. Her mask cracked. "She deserves it," she blurted, pointing at me. "Everyone thinks she's perfect, with her grades and her teachers loving her. Someone had to bring her down." The room froze. Her parents' faces went pale. Even Carter blinked, stunned. In that moment, every bit of her bitterness poured out, raw and unfiltered. And that's when I realized, this wasn't about me being pregnant. It was about jealousy. Plain, ugly envy. She wanted me humiliated because she couldn't stand that I hadn't given her anything else to attack. By the end of the hearing, it was clear. The administration recommended expulsion. Her parents argued, pleaded, threatened lawsuits, but the decision was firm. She had crossed too many lines. I should have felt relief, vindication. But as we walked out, I found another note slipped into my locker. "You ruined her life. Watch your back." That night, I couldn't sleep. My victory felt hollow. Yes, she was facing consequences, but her anger and her friends' loyalty were still out there, circling like vultures. And for the first time, I wondered if clearing my name had made me safer, or painted an even bigger target on my back. The morning after the hearing, I woke up to silence. Not peaceful silence, the heavy kind, where you can feel something waiting to drop. My phone buzzed with notifications, and my chest tightened before I even looked. The first thing I saw was an Instagram story. Not from her. Her account had been deactivated by the school, but from one of her friends. It was a blurry picture of me walking out of the library the day before, my parents on either side of me. The caption read, "Enjoy ruining people's lives? Hope you're proud." The comments underneath were worse. A string of laughing emojis. One said, "Snitch." Another, "Attention seeker." And then the one that made my stomach flip. "She'll get what's coming." For weeks I had been the target of lies. Now, even with the truth out, I was being painted as the villain. She was gone from the school, but somehow I was still the one people wanted to tear apart. By lunch, the whispers were back. Not about me being pregnant. No, that rumor was dead. Now it was about how I'd destroyed someone's future, how I'd gotten her expelled over nothing. Kids I didn't even know glared at me as if I'd committed some crime. The hallways that had briefly felt lighter suddenly felt toxic again, heavier than ever. I skipped lunch and sat in the bathroom stall, staring at my phone. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. Part of me wanted to delete every social media account, vanish, and pretend none of this had happened. Another part of me wanted to scream at everyone, shove the screenshots in their faces again, force them to admit what she'd done. But instead, I just sat there numb. I thought back to the moment in the hearing when she cracked, when she shouted that I deserved it. It should have been the moment I felt vindicated. Instead, it echoed in my head like a curse. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was too perfect, too invisible, too easy to hate. Why else would people jump so quickly to believe the worst about me? When the final bell rang, I slipped out of school before anyone could stop me. I walked home alone, my backpack heavy, my chest heavier. At one point, I thought I heard footsteps behind me, and I froze, my breath catching. Nothing, just my paranoia. But the fear clung to me all the way home. That evening, I told my mom I didn't want to go back. She looked at me like I'd just confessed a crime. "Honey, you've done nothing wrong," she said. "You can't let them scare you out of your own school." But the truth was, I already felt exiled. Even in victory, I'd lost. My reputation was scarred, my trust shattered, my sense of safety gone. I didn't feel like the winner. I felt like a casualty. Lying in bed that night, I realized something that chilled me. She might be expelled, but her shadow still lingered. Her friends, her lies, her venom, they weren't gone. And if I didn't find a way to reclaim my own story, I was going to drown in theirs. That's when the thought struck me. Maybe the school couldn't fix everything. Maybe I had to do something myself to finally end it. By the time the next week rolled around, I was done hiding. The fear, the whispers, the isolation, it had worn me down, but it had also hardened me. I realized something in those sleepless nights. If I didn't reclaim my own voice, I'd always be living in the shadow of her lies. Expulsion hadn't silenced her. Her friends were still spinning the narrative. The only way to end it was to confront it head-on. I didn't plan anything dramatic. No cafeteria speech, no standing on tables. Instead, I chose the truth, delivered in a way no one could twist. With the help of my best friend, I drafted a long post. Not a rant, not an attack, just the facts. Screenshots, dates, receipts. I explained what had been said, how it spread, how it affected me, and how the school had confirmed the truth. I ended it with one line. Believe what you want, but this is what actually happened. Hitting post felt like jumping off a cliff. My hands were shaking, my chest tight, but there was also a strange calm. The silence afterward was terrifying. Minutes passed. Then comments started trickling in. At first, the reactions were predictable. A couple of her loyal friends called me pathetic, accused me of dragging it out. But then something unexpected happened. Other students chimed in, students I barely knew. One wrote, "I saw the snap when it first went up. She was lying. Sorry you went through that." Another added, "It's messed up how far it went. Glad you stood up." By the end of the day, the tide had shifted. Not everyone was on my side, but the balance had changed. For once, the weight of the rumor wasn't crushing me alone. People were pushing back against the lies, correcting others in the hallways. Her story was cracking, collapsing under its own ugliness. But the real confrontation didn't happen online. It happened face to face. 2 days later, I walked into school and found her waiting by my locker. She wasn't supposed to be there. She'd been expelled, pending an appeal, but apparently, she wanted one last word. Her eyes burned with rage. "You think you won?" she hissed. "You ruined my life." My heart pounded, but I didn't flinch. "You did that yourself," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You don't get it. People will always believe what's more entertaining. And you? You'll always be the girl who had to scream she wasn't pregnant. That's your legacy." For a moment, her words stung. But then I looked at her, really looked. The desperation, the bitterness, the cracks in her armor. And something clicked. She wasn't powerful anymore. She was drowning, clawing for anything to pull me down with her. I straightened my shoulders. "No," I said. "My legacy is that I stood up. Yours is that you lied and got caught." She opened her mouth to retort, but before she could, a teacher appeared. "You're not supposed to be here," he said firmly, ushering her away. As I watched her go, something inside me unclenched. It wasn't triumph, exactly. More like closure. For the first time since that rumor started, I felt like I was the one in control. The next week, the expulsion became official. She transferred out quietly, her name fading from the daily chatter. And though the whispers about me didn't vanish overnight, they shifted. I wasn't the pregnant girl anymore. I was the girl who fought back, who exposed the lie. It didn't make me invincible. I still had bad days, moments when a stray laugh made me flinch. But it gave me something stronger than revenge, the knowledge that I could survive it. That I could take the worst humiliation someone threw at me and come out the other side. And when I walk through those hallways now, head held high, I noticed something new. Respect. Not from everyone, but from enough. And for the first time in months, that was enough for me.